Today's episode of In the Trenches is brought to you by System 12 Guitar Method. Sign up today at ryanroxie.com.
In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie.
Hello, and welcome to another live stream episode of In the Trenches. I am your host, Ryan Roxie. What is happening, folks? Well, we all know what's happening, the obvious, and we are going to try to avoid that today. I don't know if anybody of you that saw my Instagram story right before we went on. I said we're going to do everything we can not to talk about war. We're going to talk about rock and roll. And of course, war stories come into rock and roll, but definitely a different kind. And like I said, our hearts are in one place right now, but today is our, we're going to sort of a deviation, if you will, sort of a little distraction, if you will, some rock and roll. And I can't think of a better distraction than the guest that we have on today, right? So if you are listening to us on one of our audio broadcasts, thank you very much for doing so. But we really want you on our YouTube official page. It's Ryan Roxie Official. There's a subscribe button that we can hit right there. I know Vic just did it, our producer, but now I'm doing it again, twice. That's the way we do it, because we want you to see our lovely guest today, and we want you to be part of our live chat. Thank you for joining in, ITT Faithful. So again, yeah, it's been a fucking last couple days, hasn't it? And let's start talking rock and roll. Let's just have some fun for the time that we have right now with our guest. Our guest, he's an old friend. He's an old bandmate. But lately, he's been making news in all the rock tabloids. Get it? Old news. Yeah. Da-dum-ba. Plus, he's got some new music to talk about. So between mixing the old school bands like Motley Crue and many others, and his new single, Your Own Worst Enemy, along with everything in between, let's talk about it all. Let's welcome into the trenches the mayor of rock and roll, or at least the mayor of the Monsters of Rock cruise, Mr. John Corabi. Hello, John.
Hello, mate. How are you? Dude, you're being very undude right now.
Like we were just talking about that. How friggin' cool. For those of you, again, that are not watching us on the YouTube channel and you're only listening to us on the audio broadcast, you got to come in here and check out Corabi's well, I don't know if this is your newest coif, but I love the style. It's going very around, what did I say, Jeff Bridges, the dude.
It's called age, bro. Yeah, there you go. There you have it.
Dude, I'm telling you, if you go right back, you're the doppelganger. You're the dude.
You know, it's funny. I love that movie. The greatest line I've ever heard in my life is when the guy takes the bowling ball and he goes, "What is this?" And he's just sitting on the toilet and he goes, "Obviously, you're not a golfer."
What movie is this you're talking about?
The Big Lebowski.
Never heard of it. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, you got to check it out. Exactly.
That's one of those things that how many pictures did Vic get in the matter of 3 minutes just from that one comment when we were doing sound check? Like, your hair looks very cool, very Jeff Bridges. So what does Vic do? He goes and gets like 10 pictures of Jeff Bridges. Maybe we should have him on the podcast too. What do you think? First question, just out of the gate, hot button issues. The first question that I'm sure everyone is dying to know, and I know you're tired of talking about it, but is Tommy's dick as big as they portray it in the new Hulu special?
Listen, I've said this before. I'll say it again. There's a few things that everybody asks me at my shows. And number one is, "Hey, dude, what was it like being in Motley Crue?" And I go, "What I remember of it, it was pretty cool." Number two, they say, "Did you see the dirt?" "Yes, I did." "Did you like it?" "No, I didn't." Why? Well, because they couldn't get Morgan Freeman to play me. That's the second thing. The third thing is then they ask, what the guys are like. And I've had some girls, I don't know why they feel the need to ask me, but they go, "Is Tommy Lee's penis really that big?" And I go, "It's not like I held it. Not like I weighed it. measured it, anything like that. But I did see the video, and if you can throw it off the end of a boat and it changes directions, it's a pretty big dick. So just leave it at that. Boom.
There it is. Honest answers, hardball questions on In the Trenches, answered straight ahead from John Corabi. But guess what? I mean, that's the thing. You have been making the rock tabloids a lot lately, talking about this Hulu special. And, you know, I don't want to inundate you and just be another podcast looking for the soundbite. But, you know, and it could have been my third question. Like most girls, they're classy. They wait until the third question to ask you about Tommy's dick. But I thought I'd go right out of the gate with it. So
let's just get the dick talk out of the way.
And you know what? It's done. I think we got that talk done, Vic. Even though you did some amazing editing and photoshopping with that picture of Tommy's, can you put that censored photo up one more time just so you get the pleasure of it? I love it. And it obviously it's not circumcised because it's an actual rectangle. I didn't know that was even possible. But let's move on from Tommy's dick to going back to get forward. What do you say, Vic? Moving fast here, baby. We're moving fast. I think that was Gilby Clark's motorcycle that we sampled for that.
Could be.
That's all you got to say about it? Look, I'm not baiting you. I'm not baiting you for any of these things. All I want to know is the truth.
Bullshit.
Even if I can't handle the truth, even if our audience can't handle the truth, I just want whatever's coming out of your mind today, because you know what? We are with the dude, John Corabi. So many bands, so much history. Even you and I have played in bands, whether we were on stage together or not. We've played in bands together. But, you know, you're a Philadelphia guy, born and bred in the 1900s. And so the thing is, there's never enough talk about Angora. Can we break open Angora?
Yeah, it was, you know, it's funny when we were in Philadelphia, unlike the New York scene, Philadelphia there was not much of a market for bands that were trying to do like original rock. All the bands that were popular in Philadelphia at the time
like covers.
No, there was a huge cover circuit there, but the bands that were getting like local airplay and the original stuff that was happening was a band called there was a guy named Robert Hazard and Heroes, who it's so weird. Cyndi Lauper tapped into the Philadelphia market for a little bit. Robert Hazard wrote the song, or co-wrote the song "Girls Just Want to Have Fun."
Aha.
And then
was this before Angel Blue? Because she was I know her as more of that. It wasn't a Blue Angel, or Angel Blue was her first band.
I don't know what she was doing, but Robert Hazard had a song called obviously "Girls Just Want to Have Fun." And then there was another band called the Hooters, who actually wrote Time After Time.
Time After Time. Eric.
And there was another ballad that they did for her. They wrote 2 songs. But it was that, you know, kind of new wave, you know,
was
skinny
it True
ties.
Colors? I think it was True Colors.
Yes,
well.
I believe it was. And, you know, so the market was really like for bands like, you know, at the time, Cinderella was just starting to come up. My band,
was that Angora, and Brittany Fox was around that same time too?
Yeah, they were all kind of getting started. And when we were in Philadelphia, we had a different drummer at the time. We had Johnny D was our drummer. Johnny had gone out to California for a quick vacation, and he was telling us like, "Oh my God, dude, everybody's got big hair, and there's every club you can play originals." So we decided to move out. We did it one by one over the course of a year. We moved out to LA, and we put the band back together in LA. Then Johnny decided to stay in Philly.
Wait, Johnny D, the same guy
from Doro, and Brittany.
Yeah, but the same guy that actually lured you out to LA. Do you ever think that maybe he was just trying to get you guys out of Philly?
There's that possibility, because they all got signed after we left. But you know, we wound up getting a guy named Robert Ietzi, And we put the band back together, and we were doing really, really well. We had, a lot of record labels were checking us out. We were doing we had a pretty decent draw in all the clubs. But as per usual in LA, we all started to get a little bit more into the partying part than the actual focusing on the music. And
what year did you move to LA? Because I moved there to go down to GIT in 1983, late 83, 84.
I was 85, 86.
You're right there. You're in the thick of it. I can tell by those photos, because if you put up any of those Angora photos, that would be Sunset Boulevard, Friday, Saturday night. It's down Gazzari's. It's then you go all the way down to the Troubadour. Maybe you swipe by the Coconut Teaser.
If you remember, you had the Troubadour, you had Gazzari's, the Roxy, the Whiskey, the FM station, Country Club, Madame Wong's, like all those places. And that there was nothing in Philadelphia unless you could do some originals, but you had to kind of intersperse them like with covers. So we were doing like Dio and Sabbath and like all this shit. And then we'd do a cover or an original. But here, when we moved to LA, it was like, we could just focus on all original material. And, so we did that, but it imploded because, you
imploded before, other than getting some cool attention from Gene Simmons, who I think he liked, if you go back to that picture, Vic, he liked all your hair because it was a combination of a lot of Gene Simmons styles of hair over the years, probably.
Gene actually offered us a record deal for his record label. But then, like I said, some of the members were starting to get into like really heavy drugs and we just kind of imploded. And then I went on to do, I put the with my manager, John Greenberg, we put the Scream together with a couple members of Racer X. At the time it was me.
And the Racer X guys are to sort of, where my story comes in as far as that was GIT guys.
Yes.
Right? Racer X was a lot of MI guys. And I remember, the musicians there were always playing, always riffing. So that's cool. You and John Greenberg, your manager, at the time, you guys known each other forever. I had no idea of that history.
Yeah. Well, so when I first hooked up with those guys, it was Juan Alderetti, the bass player. Bruce Bouillet was on guitar, and the drummer was Scott Travis. And we started writing and, doing demos for what eventually would become the Scream. But then Travis got the phone call to go to England, and he wound up auditioning for Judas Priest, and he left the band and did the Painkiller record. With enter another gentleman,
which is arguably one of the Priest's best records, right?
It was crazy. And then we wound up getting a drummer named Walt Woodward, and which it was kind of cool. Like Scott was an amazing drummer, but Walt just had this stank when he played. He had that kind of Charlie Watts, John Bonham thing, and it just worked. And we wound up getting a record deal almost immediately, and then they just said, "Go write." And they stuck us in the studio for like 7 months, and we just wrote. And that's the byproduct of our first record deal.
I believe by that time, my band that we were playing around this, probably the same club scene with Electric Angels, we had moved to the East Coast. We had done the exact opposite route of what you did. So we crisscrossed countries. We went to New York and got our record deal. And I remember the Scream being the West Coast answer to Skid Row, or maybe it was the Question to Skid Row. It was right around the same time because they had this really enigmatic front man. It was like, I'm getting ahead of myself in chronological order because like I said, I want to spend more time on Angora. And I will ask for a lot of definitions today on the podcast because I really do want to know. But John, what does Angora mean for the first band?
Which was Gene Simmons' biggest issue with us. He goes, "I fucking hate the name. I'm giving you guys a record deal, but you got to change the name." he goes, why do you want to be called, like, it's a fucking sweater, dude. It's a sweater. Like, why do you want to be called, why do you want to be named after a sweater? And, so then he came in with, he goes, I got the perfect name for you guys. And we go, okay. He goes, 8 Ball. And I'm thinking drugs, like
3.5 ounces. It's how I learned. Or 3.5 grams equals 1/8 of an ounce. That's how I learned the metric system, folks. I don't want to get into it more than that, but yes, 8 Ball is an abbreviation for 1/8 of an ounce, which is 3.5 grams. And that's all we'll say about it. But yeah, right.
But it was funny. I said to Gene, I go, dude, like, everybody's going to think that's a drug thing. And he goes, nah, one interview, you'll knock it out. He goes, 4 guys, 8 balls. You're called 8 Ball.
It's actually genius. All right, Gene. It's genius again. But that is, I never thought about 8 balls. 4-piece band.
Yeah, it was 4.
But Angora, was it after the actual? Is it a fabric? Is Angora sort of? Is it a type of? What is it?
Okay, so we looked online. And I don't know if it was Webster's or whatever the fucking dictionary was, but somebody said something about Angora, and we're like, blah, blah. So we looked up the definition, and it said long-haired, fluffy animal.
And we go,
okay, well, that kind of works. Do you know what I mean? But Gene's like, yeah, it's a fucking sweater. I don't care what the definition says in the dictionary. It's a fucking sweater. Changing your name to 8 Ball. But when we found the thing, it said a long-haired, fluffy animal, and we're like, okay, well, long
See, that
hair.
could have been actually like you could have the story could have ran. It's part of a girl's anatomy. It's like sort of
yes,
because that was back before everybody waxed a little bit. It was right during that phase. It was the transitional phase, so it could have been a large furry animal.
It was definitely better than meat socket, whatever. But anyway,
was that one of the ones left on the chopping block?
Yes, meat sock.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so now that we're going into just there's an Angora. Thank you very much, Vic Chalfant. That is how good our production staff is here. And when I say staff, I mean just Vic Chalfant, because he's on the internet all the time. And I'm sure that came maybe through one of his porn searches, but that is an actual Angora, folks. So that's where John Corabi's band was named out of. Now here comes another hardball question, and I assure you it's not about Tommy's dick. This one is about, at some point your name came Crabby.
Yes.
Again, John Corabi, and then people just know you as Crabby. Can you give me the story behind that definition of Crabby and how it came about?
Very easy. Mick Mars, being the linguist that he is, he used to just say to me, like, we'd be sitting in rehearsal and he would want to show me a guitar or a part or whatever. And he would go, hey, Corabi. And it went from hey, Corabi to hey, Carab to hey, Crab. It just kind of morphed from Corabi to Carab to Crab. And then that was it. Once he said it, it stuck. And
the evolution of John Corabi.
The fans have been calling me that since 1993. And
does it have a different sort of tone when across the world? Is like, how would perhaps a European say crabby, or maybe Federica, who you met before the show, she would probably go crabby, and she'd actually heighten the I, maybe.
Yeah, it's just weird. You know what? I don't mind it. It's just weird. Like if, you're meeting someone and, you're sitting there talking to, there was a few times even on the boat, I was just sitting there talking to different people and somebody would come over and go, hey, Crab. And then, there was this one lady who was talking to me about jewelry and she's like, why do they call you Crabby? You know what? I don't even want to know. I'm like, okay, whatever. But
you're far from crabby, though, dude. You've always had a very positive.
Unless
mindset.
you ask my wife, then she goes, "Yeah, I see where you got the name." But whatever.
Are you sort of crabby in the morning?
No, I'm just quiet until I have my coffee, and then I'm like, whatever. Just leave me alone. Let me have some coffee first. But It's just really a name thing. Like Mick came up with the whole thing, and at that, you know, he would go, "Hey Corabi, hey Crab," and then somehow it just morphed into Crab, and I mean, you know, Team Crab, whatever. So
Mick Mars, guitarist, linguist,
yes,
living legend, and that's
there
a great
it is.
picture of the two of you. Just he's probably yelling out Krabby right there. You know, that's where the genesis came of the name. In that picture, it kind of brings up a band that we all love, probably influenced by. But when I say the word the Beatles, what do you think of?
Genius.
Yeah.
I mean, it still amazes me, dude. Like I just watched that Peter Jackson, the Get Back series that they did.
Yeah, incredible.
Hopefully they did it. Hopefully it was available to you guys overseas as well. But
Absolutely.
you know, you sit there and you look at this, and you can appreciate this as a songwriter and performer. Like you just sit there and you watch the genius of them in the studio trying to put music together for a live broadcast or whatever. And obviously, a lot of the material ended up being on Abbey Road. But you just sit there and you look at it and you go, holy shit, like this is the end of their career. And you're like, they're all like 26, 27, 28 years old. I don't even think any of them was 30 at that point.
No, it was like an NFL career at that point. Being a rock musician was like being like a professional athlete, where nobody knew that you could go on to be, 70, pushing on 80 years old, like the Stones and
but
Alice Cooper, my boss, for instance.
Yeah, it just amazed me. And then it was funny, like I watched that and I started, you get on Wikipedia and you start looking at different things. And I realized that some of the songs that George is playing on the in that Get Back thing actually wound up on All Things Must Pass. And so I looked up All Things Must Pass, and it's crazy to me. Like at that point, it came out, I think, in 1970, and triple album. He does this album, and it's like, okay, I already did the Beatles. Now here's my solo shit. And then you look at how old he was when All Things Must Pass come out, and it's like, are you fucking kidding me? He's 27 years old when All Things Must Pass comes out. So you're like
when it's basically considered past the heyday, but it's not, because obviously they had huge solo careers to go. I mean, yeah, when you think about that, we were talking about that on the boat for a minute or two. Dude. Those years, those late 60s years, it was like the White Album. Then right after the White Album, you have the recording for what's going on with this special, this Peter Brown special. And then you have the Peter Jackson special, sorry. And then you have the all the sort of writing of what's going to eventually become Let It Be, or, Let It Be, right? Well, but then during that time, they're actually riffing around with Abbey Road.
Yes.
Which they would record later that year of filming that special. Later that year, it's Abbey Road. Then the year after that, it's, Get Back. And then it's basically done at that point.
That's the genius thing about it, because you watch the video and you go, like when they first go into the studio, they just have like ideas. They don't have songs. And it's like, okay, the Beatles they need to write and record like 14 songs for this live broadcast. So they wrote the songs that eventually became the Let It Be album.
I Got a Feeling.
Yeah, but then
Dig a Pony.
There was a whole other album's worth of shit. Like if you watch the end thing, they did the live performance on the rooftop, and then they go back into the studio to finish the rest of the record, and it winds up being Abbey Road. And you're like, it's just mind-boggling to me.
A lot of genius in a short amount of time.
That amount of, it was just like genius from like the get-go to right up to the end. And then the crazy part is that they were all babies. They were all like in their mid to late 20s at that point. You're like,
and surrounded by complete lunacy. They're in the eye of the hurricane. And to think that, in a lot of ways, from watching that, one black man who was amazing keyboard player, but just an amazing musician in general, Billy Preston, kind of gets them all to fall in line a little bit, just to be on enough good behavior.
Yeah.
Just good enough behavior that they can create, that they can pull this together. And that's like, honestly, out of all the great music that Billy Preston's made over the years and everything that he's done to, just for him to be able to come into that situation, get the respect and pull them together and hold that whole ship together was amazing to see. Cause I never knew that story until I did watch the special.
Well, and the funny thing is, you know, I just did an interview the other day with our buddy, Mr. Adika, but we were talking about that. And when we were doing the Motley record, we had started recording in Vancouver, and then we went back down to LA and we kind of set up shop at A&M. And so we were mixing, mastering, we were recording, like we're doing all this shit. And Glenn Hughes popped by. And so he walked into the studio, and the song Misunderstood was up on like the Stooters. We had all these tape decks. And so Glenn Hughes came by, and we're sitting there bullshitting. He's listening to the new stuff, and he goes, wow, this is really cool. This is great. It's got this cool vibe to it. So then Bob Rock goes, hey, would you want to sing on something? And this is what I was saying about the difference between old school guys, the guys that we grew up listening to, and the kids that are making music now. And Glenn Hughes goes into the studio. I wrote out the lyrics for him. He puts the headphones on. He listened to Misunderstood once. And he goes, all right, I got it.
I got this. Got this.
Yeah, he's kind of following along with the lyrics and blah, blah, blah. So then Bob goes in, starts the song at the beginning, hits record. Glenn does a pass from top to bottom. And then he goes back again. He goes one for good measure, and he did it again. And all the vocals that you hear on the song Misunderstood was Glenn Hughes, like one take. So then we're sitting there, and we had another song called Baby Kills that kind of had a little bit of a funk thing to it, very Zeppelin-y. And we wanted clavinet on it. So we're sitting there, who could we get to play clavinet? Let's call Stevie Wonder. Well, Stevie wasn't available. And I don't know if it was me. Somebody said, well, what about Billy Preston?
Get the hell out.
No, check it out, dude. So so we call him, hey, would you want to come in and play on this track? So he goes, I'll be there tomorrow. He comes in. He set up his little keyboard, plugged it in, and same thing, listened to the track, and immediately got a vibe, and he just started playing clavinet, and he plays clavinet on this track for us. But then me, Tommy, Nikki, Bob Rock, we're all sitting there, we're fanboying out like we're a bunch of little schoolgirls. And we go, hey, dude, do you think you could play the keyboard solo from Get Back? And he goes, yeah. So he sits down at the keyboard and he like thinks for a second.
He's been asked that probably as many times as you've been asked how big Tommy's dick is. So let's be honest.
And dude, he fucking played that solo like note for note. And we were like, holy shit, there it is. And then I go, dude, could you play Circles? And he starts, we'll go around in circles. And he just started playing it and singing it to us. And we were like, oh, this is insane.
I was going to say that Glenn Hughes was the Billy Preston of Motley Crue, but I've just been corrected because Billy Preston was the Billy Preston of Motley Crue. I love that story. And you know what? What are you going to do?
Nicest guy on the planet. He answered. He sat there with us for 2 hours. And we just said, oh, what was John Lennon like? What was Paul McCartney like? What, how about, Mick Jagger? And he just sat there. We had some coffee and he just bullshitted with us, played some stuff. He sang some stuff. And then he left. And we were like, me and Tommy were literally sitting there pinching our face. Like, did that just fucking happen, dude? We had Billy fucking Preston play on our track. How awesome is that?
And just the fact that you had, you know, Glenn Hughes come in and sing it 2 takes, it reminds me a lot of the story when we had Steve, you know, from the original Alice Cooper band.
Yep.
Steve came in and played the solo for, what was it? Train Kept a Rolling, the whole Aerosmith story. And he came 2 passes. That's all he took as well. So is that the magic number with all these old school guys?
I don't know, dude, but it's just, it's a whole other level of, you know, it's funny. I just had this kid, you know, no disrespect, but this kid came to me and he goes, "Hey man, when you record your vocals, do you run it through auto-tune?" And I'm like, no. Why would I do that? And he goes, "Well, how do you do your vocals?" And I go, "Well, I just step up to the microphone and I sing it until I fucking get it right." Like, you know,
and I usually sing it in key from the beginning.
Try to, and then, you know, there's some bum notes in there every now and then. And if it's nothing crazy, if there's just a little sharp or flat, I'll leave it. I'm like, I like the human part of it, but I just try to get in the zip code, bro. Like, I don't use I don't like using auto pitch. Now I give the shit to Marty, and if he wants to run shit through there, I don't know if he does or not, but I'm like, I don't want to fucking use it. I'm just singing. And
perfect segue, man. You know what? That is our soundbite of the podcast so far. I just tried to get it in the zip code, bro. Is that what that is?
You know, just get it close. I mean, if you listen to some of that, even the Beatles stuff, if you isolate their vocals, they're not perfect. And Zeppelin, like Robert Plant hit some janky fucking notes, and, you know, leave him, man. That's the beauty. We're human. You know, we're not always fucking right. So I just leave shit in there, whatever.
The band that you were in, Motley Crue, the first album, Too Fast for Love. Thank God he sang the way he did, because it wouldn't have been that album unless he sang a quarter pitch off and they had to put the harmonizer on it. And because it created a whole vibe and a sound from that.
And that's the thing. I get it. Like at the end of the day, Vince Neil does have, he is a very distinguishable sound of a band that sold a lot of records. I get it. Like, nobody needs to give me a history lesson. I understand that. I lived it. You know what I mean? But, you know, I've never said that I was better than, or Vince is better than, or whatever. And Vince and I are actually friends. At the end of the day, we're different from each other. So I don't know what his deal is, but when I sing, like I said, I just try to get it in the zip code. You know, just get it close.
But never forget that band, you're part of that legacy as well. And I know you don't forget that, but people should always remember you're part of the legacy, just like, you know, just as an important part of the legacy, just like any other member of that band. So kudos to you.
I'm fine being the asterisk next to their name. That's fine with me.
Not in many people's minds, not in my mind for sure. But I want to get back to another great band, the Beatles, because that comes almost full circle to what you are doing now. Because when you played for me just a couple of weeks ago, we were on the Monsters of Rock cruise, and you are the mayor of Monsters of Rock. So I was thankful to be in your office, which was basically your your small cabin, just like all of us had small cabins.
By the way, it still hurts when I sit. Thank you very much.
But anyway, we were talking about, you said, "Hey man, let me play you some of my new stuff." And immediately when I heard Così Bella, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not Italian like you and Federica and everybody. Così Bella, I will say. I'll try to pronounce that right. But that song had a distinct Beatles feel to it for me. Now, was there any Beatles sort of influence that you drew from it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's funny, I had that riff for a while, and I actually submitted it when I was doing the last Dead Daisies record, Burn It Down. And it was so out of our wheelhouse. Everybody was like, I don't know, dude, I'm not hearing it. So I just saved it. I played it for Marty Fredrickson. And Marty's like, "Well, what are you hearing?" And honestly, I was like, I'm kind of hearing a cross between Penny Lane. It's just got that bounce. Oh, Penny Lane, and then also Killer Queen by Queen. Probably my favorite Queen song ever. So now it's funny, during the whole COVID experience, I was very upset with myself because I've done, God, I'm probably, right now I'm working on a solo record. So it's probably my 15th or 16th record. But I was upset because I'm like, man, my entire life just got put on hold. The recording process, the live shows. So I took Pro Tool classes. I'm still very caveman about it, but I took the Pro Tools classes. And then once I kind of figured out a little bit on how to do shit, I sat down and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to demo this song up so that my manager and Marty knows exactly what I'm talking about. So I did all the keyboards, all the bass, I did MIDI drums, all the guitars. I sang it. I had some buddies come over. We did all the backing vocals, and I just sent him the files. And as soon as he heard it, he went, I get it. Now, the funny thing is, everybody goes, it's a really cool tune. Not what I would have expected from you. But I'm like, which is kind of weird to me. Because I go, if you listen to any interview I've done since the Scream days, I've always said my first biggest influence was the Beatles.
Yeah. And if anyone's come to any of our shows together that we've played, or any of the nights that they can remember at the Cat Club, you would always come up for Oh Darling. Yep. And that was in fact, Oh Darling's become a little bit of your cat call, if you will.
That one, and we used to do, and actually we recorded it with the Dead Daisies too. We did Helter Skelter. But I love the Beatles. I love Zeppelin. And I was trying to figure out a way, like, okay, how can I take this thing and this thing? Or like, now I think Aerosmith's done a pretty good job. They like, Aerosmith is kind of that mold where they've taken like old blues and like funk and then they put it together. And
melodic Beatle-y stuff.
Yeah, he comes up with these Beatle-esque harmonies and all that other shit. So I'm trying to, take the stew, put a bunch of shit in it, mix it up, and just put out whatever. But it's funny. I mean, Casibello did well. It's doing okay on the streaming and download sites, but.
Well, see, the way you describe it is that's a really good mix that you have with Casibello, and then the other end is the newest single that just came out, Your Own Worst Enemy, because that has a different feel, a different flavor to it. And we're going to talk all about that coming up. We're going to take a small break because there's so much to talk about with you, John Corabi. But, there's a lot of people that have been interactive this week, DMing me and posting up, wanting to ask questions. So basically the second half of our show is going to be a lot of guest questions, if you will, plus a couple cool fun things. So if you are hanging out with us in the trenches, we have John Corabi, lead singer of his own project right now and his own solo stuff as well. You might have heard him in Motley Crue, The Scream, Dead Daisies. There's so many to choose from, which we're going to have a little bit of game. But first, we're going to have a quick commercial. And you know what, Vic, this is your choice. Which one of our sponsors do you want to promote? Because I'm speaking out of the Beyerdynamic stuff, and I'm wearing the CliC glasses. So let's go CliC. What do you say? We'll see you in 2 minutes. Hello, Roxy Guitar Army. For those of you that have been faithfully following the podcast, you may have noticed that recently I've been changing up my eyewear from week to week. And today we are happy to announce that CliC Eyewear is now an official sponsor of the In the Trenches podcast. They've even given us a special discount code that we can now pass on to our supporters. CliC has provided me with both readers and blue blocker protection eyewear that are durable, stylish, and convenient. What sets them apart from the rest of the reader world? The catch is in the CliC. They are the world's first magnetic reader, which makes them hard to lose and even harder to break. If you're interested in getting a pair or two of your own, check out the discount link located in the description. Never lose your readers again, because with CliC Eyewear, they're always around you. Now let's get back into the trenches and back to some more rock and roll. And welcome back to In the Trenches. I am your host, Ryan Roxie. John, do your glasses do that?
No, they don't. that's kind of cool, man. You know what? I'm just kind of sitting there going, wow, you got sponsors and shit. This is big time, bro.
You know what? Can I use that as a soundbite for our sponsor? It's kind of
Absolutely.
cool, man. Kind of cool from John Corabi. Let's get into it now, because honestly, folks, there is so much to talk about. All your questions are coming. But first, I thought I'd like to play a game to catch up our audience. Of course, they know all the bands you've been in, but do you know all the bands you've been in, John? Because we're going to play a quick game of fuck, marry, or kill. So check it out. Vic's going to put up a site there. Those are all the bands, or pretty much I thought that I could track down. Maybe there's more. There's a lot of them right there. Which band would you fuck? Which band would you marry? Which band would you kill? John Corabi.
You talk about okay, dude. This is seriously baiting big time.
It's not baiting, because fuck could be a good thing. It's not a bad thing in this situation. F is like I enjoyed being that band. I enjoyed having sex with that band, and not literally, but figuratively.
Right. Okay. Like, only because it was complete lunacy the whole time, and there was definitely a lot of things to fuck around. I'll say Motley Crue, F.
Okay, which could be fun. Could be used as a fun thing to do. Yeah.
Let me see. I'm gonna go with kill Angel City Outlaws.
Yeah, very nice. Killing the Magic Hat and everything, which was I actually played one gig with you in the Angel City Outlaws. Hopefully it wasn't that experience that did it, but it might have been. So the last one would be,
and there's a reason why you only did one. And that's why I'm going to kill that one, because I kind of forgot that I even did that. And then, you know what? It's all about new times, new days, new ways, new music. So I'm going to marry the John Corabi solo shit.
I love it. There you go. Another. We don't get very many artists on here that can play fuck, marry, kill the way you just did. And that was amazing. So there it is. Los Angeles Mary. See, Federica. That's Federica, who has done such a great job compiling so much of the information. You were able to talk to her before the podcast started. She did love the Los Angeles. Here's the thing about Los Angeles, and Federica.
She didn't see him with me, though. She saw him with you.
That's the thing. We are the sun and the moon of Los Angeles. She explained to me that last night. When I mean, what do you mean by we're the sun and the moon of Los Angeles? She goes, well, the two of you are like the sun and the moon. You don't appear on the stage together, but you're in the same band.
We're in the same universe.
So at one point we have to rectify that situation. John and I have played gigs together. We've done many a show together at the Cat Club. We've done the Los Angeles, which apparently John wants to kill. And what else did we do? We wrote a song together that appeared on a soundtrack. Something Junk Fest. It was a horror movie. I think it was Calico Cooper's first horror movie. It was the song. It was a riff that you and I wrote called Psycho Killer. You brought over a riff, and we made
refresh my memory, bro, because I don't remember this at all.
I'll send you a copy. Well, I can't send you a digital file because it was only released on video. Like much of 80s, 90s porn, it went straight to DVD, I believe. So, and we never
somewhere. No, not that DVD.
Not that DVD. Hold on. It was a different one. But the thing is, yes, it was called Junk Foods Horror Fest, Calico Cooper's first film that she ever acted in. And it was a horror movie. And I'll tell you more about it. Going back to, you said you're
so bad. I've been so bad with, I'm just now kind of going through like with BMI and Sound Exchange and all these things. And I'm kind of going through my entire catalog. My friend Tammy, who I'm helping move, is trying to help me out with this. And it's weird. Like there are literally, like, I completely forgot. It's not in my library, but I wrote a song with a band that was on Epic Records or whatever years ago, a band called Cinder Road. And I wrote a song for them that was like the first single from the record or whatever. Completely forgot about it. Like, and it's funny. I look in my library on BMI and I'm like, what is this? Like, so then I have to look it up on YouTube and listen to it again and go, oh shit, yeah, I did.
I'm trying to think of what cinder is, because it has sort of an Angora effect. Is cinder like a cinder block, right? I guess so. It would be a road made out of cinder blocks, and cinder I would assume is a material.
Yeah, but the singer, it's this guy named Mike. He came to Nashville and contacted me about writing a song with him. We sat down, we wrote the song in like one session, wrote the lyrics. And then he went and recorded it and put it on this record that came out all around the world. And I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck? Like, I completely forgot about that song. You know what I mean? It's weird. And you, my friend, are probably one of the reasons why I'm in Nashville. If you remember, we did that thing in Destin, Florida together with Steve Cropper.
Wasn't it? It was a golf. I'm always trying. It was a golf tournament. We were called the Hillary Duffers. Do you remember that? That was the name of our band.
Yes.
And that was masterminded, I believe, by In the Trenches alumni, amazing, great drummer, Mike Fasano. That's right. Fan favorite, Mike Fasano. He masterminded that.
Now, it's weird how this works out, but I went down, we did that thing together. And then remember, we jammed. We did Oh Darling and a couple things. And you know, I was clueless, and this guy comes on stage with us. We did that dinner thing. Remember the dinner thing? And
absolutely. How are your salads?
Yeah. Can I play with you guys? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? You're like, bro, that's Steve Cropper. And I'm like, oh shit. Okay, cool. So he came up, we did.
He kind of wrote Sitting Under the Dock of the Bay, right?
And he invited me to Nashville to write with some other people. So I went and I wrote a couple times, and then I went, I fucking love it here. This is great, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then fast forward, my wife now, Debbie, I'm telling a story about how we all went and did this golf tournament, blah, blah, blah. Steve Azar was there and Steve Cropper. And my wife goes, wait,
I was there.
And I go, what? She goes, yeah, there was some band was playing, and they did Walk This Way with Daryl from Run DMC. And I go,
was me.
That was us. And she couldn't believe it. Like, we were like 5 feet away from each other and didn't meet.
Funny.
And then we wound up meeting in Nashville once I moved there. It's crazy.
That I've never heard this story before. This is Hillary Duffer gossip that I think you'd never ever expect to hear on In the Trenches. But that leads me to you being in Nashville, because you kind of are old school rocker Nashville. I'm not going to go back and say country Nashville, because that goes back decades. But there did seem to be this pilgrimage.
Oh my God.
Pilgrimage of a lot of Los Angeles people. And I thought about this before we were doing our interview today. I was like going, maybe, and you said something just a couple minutes ago. You said in some weird way, I was part of your journey to Nashville. Yeah. But when I got up and left out of Dodge and moved to Stockholm, I know there was a lot of mumblings like, because there was, you know, what the hell is he leaving this city? This is where everything's happening. But shortly thereafter, a lot of people started getting the hell out of Dodge. You were early on it. How do you feel about people now that are moving into Nashville just these last couple of years?
Well, it's, you know, to be honest with you, it's really, it's helping our property value. Debbie and I own a home, and then we have, like, she has a hair salon. She's actually renting it to a skincare place right now. So the property value, her commercial property and our home, the values are going through the roof. The thing that's annoying now is that Nashville is turning into like a mini Atlanta. So
explain.
I used to be able to travel from one side of the city to the other in like 20 minutes. Now it's like you can't go from one side of the city to the other, it takes you like an hour and a half. And I'm really starting to lose my patience with it. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of looking at other places now, maybe Florida, Montana, whatever. I'm just looking for anywhere but
Corabi's looking for the new Nashville, which is the old Los Angeles, which is the old, I don't know. Let's just go back. For rock and rollers, there you are. Once again, being a pioneer.
Yeah, and it's weird now. It's like when I moved there, the guys in Cinderella, Tom Kiefer's really the pioneer. He's
been there for a long time, and hasn't the singer of Slaughter as well. Mark Slaughter has been there for a while.
Tom was the first.
Okay.
And now when I moved there, it was like 3 of the 4 guys from Cinderella and like Mark Slaughter, a few guys.
Well, come on, Ryan Cook and Jeremy Asbrook. They've been like, I think they were born and raised there. If they weren't, Jeremy
was born and raised. Ryan's from Kansas City.
That's right. Don't remind me. He likes the Chiefs. Damn it.
Yeah. And then he went LA to Nashville, like whatever. And I don't know when he moved. I kind of think that he came after I was there. But now it's crazy. Like, well, Jeff LaBar's unfortunately passed away, but you have, Tom Kiefer, Eric Brittingham.
Got our very own Chuck Garrick lives there.
Yeah, Chuck Garrick. You have Brad Whitford, Derek St. Holmes, Steven Tyler, Rachel Bolan, Mick Mars, Vince Neil, Tom Peterson. Like all these people have migrated. Troy Luccketta from Tesla, Dave Mustaine. Thank you. There's a ton of rock people in Nashville now. So, which is cool because, before I would go to a club or I would go to a bar and it was like, these guys playing kind of honky tonk or country western shit. But now it's like, it's just so random. Like
now they're all playing the international set list. Hey, do you know T-Rex? Of course we know 20th Century Boy.
Yeah. Or it's like, they'll go from like, Garth Brooks to Foreigner, Hot Blooded. You're like, what? Like, so it's awesome. It's just that when I moved there, I think the population was a little under 700,000. And literally I've been there for 15 years now. And now we're looking at 2 million.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
You know what? You're not the Donner Party. You're the Corabi Party. And you didn't have to eat your own on the way there. Or did you?
I'm not against that. I'm just saying if it creates a little space, whatever. But
well, here we go. I mean, I wanted to talk real quick. I mean, I hope you have a little bit of time because, damn it, you're not just a musician. You're also an author. And you put together your autobiography, Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, which is obviously one of the best sayings that we grew up with. What's close? Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. Why the title? Why the autobiography now? Because it seems as though you are just starting a whole new solo career. Was it a way of closing up one end to open up another? Or how did this whole book, Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, come about?
It was weird. I didn't really want to do. I started this book when I lived in LA, and then it was weird. It was one of those things where I started writing it, and then I was like, I redid it, and then I started writing it with another guy, and then I redid it, and it was getting to the point where, as I was trying to get my book together, every musician on the planet was putting a book out, and even to the point where I did a KISS expo, and there were some guys that were like, they were like roadies for KISS in the 70s that they wrote a book. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. Now I kind of feel like I'm jumping on a bandwagon or,
right.
Before when I was talking about doing it, I was like,
you were pre-slash, but by the time it was post-slash.
Yeah. So now it's like, I was like, so anyway, in 2019, I left the Daisies. I went down to Australia and I did 4 or 5 shows down there. And this gentleman named Paul Miles, who has a Motley site called Chronological Crew, he was talking to me, and we were telling stories and different shit, and he goes, you know what, Crab? He goes, I know you're in the book The Dirt, and but he said you're still kind of like, even though you told your story, you're still kind of an enigma that a lot of people don't know a lot about. I think you should do a book. And I'm like, no. Well, he finally eventually talked me into it. And we did this book. And I'm, now in hindsight, I'm kind of glad that I did. So it's going to hopefully close some things from the past, put them to bed. But the other thing is the title, oddly enough, came from my father, who unfortunately passed away in 2014. And my dad had this weird sense of humor, like very dry. And even when I was doing Union, I said something to him like, I know I did Motley and I know I did the Scream, but this band Union, Dad, it's really getting a lot of, we're getting some great feedback. A lot of people are excited about it. And I said, I think this might be the band. This might be the one that puts me over the top. I think my ship has finally come in.
And you didn't fuck, marry, or kill that band at all. So that they remain
they're good. Yeah,
unscathed.
Yeah. So my dad, just as dry could be, I said, I think my ship's finally come in. And I could hear my dad on the other line. He takes a puff of a cigarette and he goes, yeah, well, if your ship's come in, just don't be at the fucking airport. And I went, okay.
That should have been the title. That could have been the title as well.
No,
your dad is amazing to come up with titles. Yeah. Come on. So if your ship hasn't come in, you better not be at the airport.
So I go, 10 years later, and I did my acoustic record in 2012. And obviously anybody that has it knows that I did half the record. I took and I reworked these old songs and I did acoustic versions of them. And then the other half of the record was all new shit. And I'm telling my dad about it. And he's like, oh, I really like when you do the acoustic thing. I can understand everything you're singing. And he's going on and on and on. And I said, well, I recorded it at my house with some friends. We mixed it, mastered it. Record labels got it. I just got to come up with a name for it. And he goes, well, what are you thinking? And I said, well, the old stuff that's on the record, I'm thinking about calling it John Corabi's Almost Greatest Hits. And then he goes, or you could just call it Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. And I was a little put off. I go,
your dad's a muse. He was a muse.
He goes, Horseshoes, hand grenades. You don't got to be on the money. You just got to be close.
Got to be in the zip code, baby.
So I wrote it down. And I said, you know what? Someday I'm going to do a fucking record or something. And that's the coolest fucking title I've ever heard in my life. I'm going to do a record or something and call it Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. And then after doing the book, going through it, because Paul would write, we would do interviews. Paul would write everything down. He would send it to me. Then I would edit everything, send it back. And we did this like 5 or 6 times. And the more I wrote everything, I realized that I'm the king of being at the right place, but always at the wrong time. Whether it's marriage or whatever. So we turned it in.
That's another fucking title, John. Right place, wrong time.
Yeah.
I love that.
I just sat there and I go, we pitched the book. We got a publishing deal. We signed the contract. And they said, well, what do you want to call the book? And I go, it's got to be Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. I have been close my whole career, and that's my story. I'm the guy that's been close, not quite the household name yet. So, and as soon as they heard it, they went,
poster child.
Fucking genius.
Poster child for In the Trenches, dude. You are our poster child, along with many of us that have been in those trenches, and that's what you have been. But you know what? Look. People love you. People are always giving you praise, rolling it down. The book is expected to be released in the mid-June era. Is that what we're looking at still on Rare Bird Books?
It's on Rare Bird Books. That's the book, and it's in the nutshell. But I think what they did is they allowed themselves a little bit of a window. I think they're shooting for like late April, May.
Okay.
But due to COVID, like trying to get shit printed and buy paper and ink and all this shit, they gave themselves a little bit of a window,
little cushion. So by the mid-June, it should be out for the masses. And of course, if anybody wants to check all this stuff out, we're going to have links and all the things to check out and find out more about John Corabi a little bit later. The only thing left to cover before people take over and let the people speak is the new single, because it's really cool that in conjunction with this book that you have coming out, you have just released your newest single that, again, has a spectrum to Casibella, which is your own worst enemy. And again, you've collaborated with your producer. I want you to tell the whole story about, how you have collaborated and how this song came about and where people can check it out.
Well, it's pretty much
with Marty, right?
Out now. It's on all the streaming download sites. It's out there electronically. I'm eventually, what I'm doing now, and Marty Fredrickson, for those who don't know.
That's your producer. Yeah.
Yes. He was kind of the catalyst for me doing it this way. Because initially I wanted to do an album. And Marty was like, he's like, dude, people like are not really buying records like they used to. So
attention span too. Attention span, man.
Exactly.
It's this, dude. It's this. It's the damn phone.
So he goes, do a song, do a video, let it sit for a couple months. Do another song, another video, let it sit for a couple months while you're getting and figuring out the best 10 songs to put on this record. And I said, all right, cool. So we started doing this, and there's more music to come. I've got a bunch of stuff already recorded. Now it's like we're already going to start working on the mix and master of the next tune. But the song was a riff that I had. It was so simple. It's like a really simple guitar riff. And it just kind of had a Zeppelin-y vibe. Played it for Marty. He didn't quite understand it first, but I recorded it at my house. And then once he realized the direction I was going in it, he's like, all right, cool. He gave me some suggestions musically. So I basically mapped out the song. I did all the guitars. I recorded everything at my house, the vocals. Then I had my good friend, Paul Taylor, came in and played clavinet.
From the band Winger. We hear it in the trenches. We never miss an opportunity to drop a name. That's Paul Taylor from the band Winger, who is also Alice Cooper alumni. And
yes,
probably get him on the podcast at one point too.
Paul came in. He played great clavinet because I wanted that trampled underfoot vibe or something. Right. So he played clavinet and some B3, and we did that. And then I sent all the files to Marty, and then he tweaked. Now, what I do is I normally record the drums on like a MIDI track, like a keyboard. And then we send it to Marty, and, we'll either have my son Ian play drums or Marty's son Evan play drums. And then we get the separation, the real drums and all that other stuff. And then we mix, master it, put it out.
It's very cool. That is a little sidebar that your son is playing drums with you, and he's in the video, right?
For Casibella.
Yeah.
I haven't done a video yet. The video that I'm doing, I'm not really going to do a performance thing on the lyrics or on Your Own Worst Enemy. I'm doing kind of a lyric video, but with some images that I think are unfortunately very prevalent right now. A lot of people have now it's funny. A fan just sent me a post yesterday. There's a fucking website that said that John Corabi releases a scathing, scorching new song written about Vince Neil. And I go, where the fuck are they getting this shit from? Like, it's so far.
You sure that wasn't the Adika interview? Come on, man.
No. It's just a bullshit thing.
So was it all for clickbait? So this song they were insinuating that basically you wrote this song, Your Own Worst Enemy, about Vince.
Neil. Yeah.
But it's not about that. What it's
No.
about. I'm glad you're coming clean about this and you're coming clear.
It's not. It's basically it's going to be a lyric video, and the song in itself. Yeah, I mean, it could be like, and we've all had those friends, Ryan, as well as I do, like some friends that are just, whether it's drinking or drugs or whatever, it's just like they keep doing shit over and over and over and over and over again, thinking that they're going to have a different outcome, and they don't. But in all honesty, the song is just about human nature, how, we just constantly repeat shit over and over and over again, and we just can't get out of our own way. Hence, I don't want to go too crazy.
No, but this week's events.
What's happening in Ukraine right now? Everybody's talking about, the Putin thing. They're likening it to 1939 Adolf Hitler invading Poland. And I'm just sitting there going, here we go. It's like we are, and I just say but we are our own worst enemy. We cannot get out of our way. So that's what the song's about. I don't know where they got Vince Neil, but
well, hey, man, they probably clickbaited themselves all the way to oblivion. But one thing I realized as we were talking about this, both you and I, my friend, we have borrowed each other's song titles because as we were thinking about this, I just realized my band before I think it was Dad's Porno Mag or right around that. Yes, it was Dad's Porno Mag with Mike Fasano, the great Mike Fasano. And of course, Will Efforts on bass and Stefan Adika eventually on bass. That band had a song called Man in the Moon, which was a Scream song.
Yes.
And we obviously came after that. But on this, I think it was the Dirty Diamonds album of Alice Cooper, there was a song called Your Own Worst Enemy that Alice and I wrote together that got put out. I'm sure, the song titles, there's a million song titles that are the same, but your new single, you obviously ripped off from Alice Cooper.
Exactly. And it was a toss up between Sandra Bullock or Pigeons Are Rude, but whatever. I'm just saying.
Do you want to go there? You're married. It's a great story. I don't know. No, you know what? That'll have to save time for next.
It's in the book.
Is it? The Sandra Bullock? Sandra B.
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock, one of my favorite actresses of all time. My wife is going to give me shit because she's blonde and Sandra Bullock looks nothing like her. And so that's fine. But it's like, yeah, Sandra B., what a great girl. And I know you know more than that, but what a great story. And you'll have to buy the book to hear the whole entire story because we don't have time for that here at In the Trenches, because now it's time for letting the people speak. These are your questions, folks. Are you ready, Vic? Let the people speak on. So there you go. It's not just letting the people speak. It's celebrity people speaking. But I will say this. The overwhelming question that everybody was asking, DMing me, putting up on the post, and so many people wrote a similar type of question, so I can't put all their names on. But it was so many people want to know your thoughts on being in Motley Crue. And I said, you've already had a great attitude about it in it always, but I think you might've answered it earlier, but your thoughts on being on Motley Crue, being in Motley Crue.
I really don't. Somebody just asked me this the other day. Like, they're like, hey, do you get along with the guys? Do you still talk with them? And I do. I still text Tommy on a somewhat regular basis. Mick, when I see Vince, everything's fine. The only one that I really have, and I don't have an issue with, is Nikki. He seems to have an issue with me, it's okay, fine, whatever.
But why? I mean, I've talked to Nikki, I've talked to you. You guys are both, reasonable guys.
I don't know. I don't understand it. Nor do I care. It's okay. If that's how he wants things to be, okay, no sweat, no big deal. All I know is that I'm very proud of the music that I wrote with those guys, And if I can be blunt, like I really feel that me having been in Motley Crue, I was there for almost 5 years, has actually given me a little longevity, I think, in my career as well. Like,
Part of the legacy, baby.
you know,
Part of the legacy.
And it's weird. Like, I'm very blessed. I thought about this the other day. Like, how many people do we know that are sitting in their garage that are 10 times a guitar player you are, 10 times a vocalist I am, but they never get that opportunity to put their shit on tape and let the world hear it. And personally, me, I got a record deal with the Scream. I had one with Motley. I had one with Union. I had one with the Dead Daisies, and I'm still doing records in a solo career. So, and
Motley completely poached you, didn't they? They completely poached you from the Scream, didn't they?
Yeah, it was. You know, I just got this random phone call. Who knew? You know what I mean? You know, ultimately, I wish I was sitting here talking about the 18th Scream album. But you know, I don't whine about shit. I'm not trying to complain. Like, you know, people. Another thing is that people go, "Why were you in so many bands?" We don't have a map. We don't have a crystal ball. It's just the cards that I was dealt, and I played them the best that I could.
And there's a song on the first Cheap Trick record called "He's a Whore," which I have taken upon myself to translate that into being in bands, as many bands as I've been into.
But you know what? Honestly, Ryan, and again, like when you get into a relationship with a woman, you know, you go in thinking, "Oh my God, this is the one." When you get into a band, you're like, "Oh yeah, I can totally picture myself 20 years from now, just, you know, playing Nebworth Festival and just calling it a day, whatever." But like, who knew I was going to get a call from Motley? Who knew that Motley was going to bring Vince back? Who knew that, you know, when I was doing Union, that Bruce and I would get a phone call to join Rat and Grand Funk Railroad? And it's just been that, it's been the cards that I was dealt. So I just play them the best I can. I'm just grateful to still be here, you know, talking to you and
you're a survivor, man. And we've had a history even before we've been friends. I mean, I don't know if you remember, we didn't have a chance to talk so much on that Motley Crue Gilby Clarke tour, which we supported you guys for a bunch of shows. I mean, you were taking care of your voice. I realized that it was a really dark time. I remember for Nikki and Tommy and Nikki's bus was all, you know, had a lot of vibe to it, a lot of darkness and stuff. So we kind of were just that support band, but I will always remember that tour for being one of those things that, you know, we saw the transition coming from, because this was like right after grunge had taken, you know, complete control of the music industry, but there was still an audience and a strong audience for rock, which again, you know, years later would come back tenfold, because now what is it? Grunge is the new classic rock in many ways.
Pretty much, yeah.
You know.
But, you know, it's funny, like when I see Ryan Roxie, I will always think of Salt and Pepper conquering Scandinavia. And I will always remember standing in an HMV with the god-awful plaid pants.
H&M, or was it
H&M. And I will literally sit there going, what fucking idiot would buy these fucking pants? They're horrid. These are, oh my God. And then somebody tapping me on the shoulder, you were Alice Cooper, he's like, I bought all four. It distracts my golf opponents. I'm like, wah, 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 wah.
That's right.
You know what? Nomia.
We were called the Salt and Pepper Shakers because we were on tour together, Alice Cooper, and you were playing guitar in Rat, which is just another one of those bands that you know, easily you could have taken over lead vocal positions, but you were honking down and holding down the foundation of the rhythm guitar, and of course adding all your background vocals too. But I do remember that tour. We actually had a band together, very short-lived time, called the
Starfuckers.
No.
Wait,
the Swedish Meatballs.
Yes,
it was a tour of Scandinavia, and it was just we called ourselves the Swedish Meatballs. I think we played 1 or 2 shows together until John started a riot in the north of Sweden. I don't know if you remember, it was either Luleå or Umeå. It was kind of close to the North Pole. John Corabi, this peace going dude, as you can see, peace, love, and fucking Bobby Sherman, he started this huge, almost street brawl. Do you remember that?
Until they started firing a gun. Then we all scattered like rats.
How did it start? How did that riot start? I don't remember.
If you remember, we were in the club and there was like an after party. It was like, if you wear your Alice Cooper, Dio, or Rat laminate, there's an after party in this club. So we all go to the club, we're hanging out, and I went outside to smoke a cigarette. I walk outside, Teddy Zigzag is leaning against the wall. He can't get in. So I'm smoking a cigarette, and Teddy's like, yeah, man, I've been trying to get in for a half an hour, but this guy won't let me in. Blah, blah, blah. I go, hold on, I'll be right back. Let me go get Steve, your sound guy.
Yes,
remember?
Who eventually became our tour manager.
Right.
Yes.
So I go, let me get Steve.
Steve Toth.
Yeah. I'll bring him out.
God.
And so I try to go in, and the door guy clotheslined me and knocked me on my ass. And he's like, sorry, no ins and outs. I go, motherfucker, I was just in there. My friend here from Guns N' Roses and Alice Cooper Band, he's trying to,
and Carole King. Don't forget Carole King.
And he was just the guy was just being an asshole. Well, I still had my cigarette in my hand. And I'm like, come on, dude, let me just go get our guys and, we'll just go back into the club.
You were the dude. Come on, dude.
And the guy pushed me, and I took my cigarette and I flicked it, and it hit him right in the face. Right as Eric Singer and everybody was coming out of the club, and Steve and all that shit. And then it just escalated from there.
I remember there being fights in the street, and I was running down the street saying, let's just get out of this riot. This is going to be a riot. There was a guy. I don't remember the gunshot, but thank goodness.
It was the door guy. I just talked to Calico about this a few days ago. We were all brawling and pushing and punching. Eric Singer, Steve, everybody. And then all of a sudden, somebody pulled a gun out and just shot it in the air. Bah, 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 bah.
I'm sorry. I was already halfway to the hotel by that point.
Yeah, that was
hot damn. We finally got the story of the great Luleå riot caused by the peace-loving John Corabi. All right, you know what? That was a total tangent. I did not expect that story. I want to get to celebrity questions real quick because comedian Earl Skakel, he actually DM'd me, and he wants to know. And this is one of the bands that, from Union leading to the ESP Eric Singer project, which a lot of people don't know what ESP means. How he wants to know what it was like dealing with Bruce Kulick and Jamie Hunting, no less dealing with Eric Singer.
Well, see, this was Union though. Earl was actually, I met Earl through, I believe Brent Fitz knew him first. And it was fine. Like Bruce and I definitely are like oil and water, but we respect the shit out of each other. And we had this thing where it's like I could literally hand him a riff, and Bruce would always come up with a part that there was no way I would have ever thought of it, and it worked. But we also wound up doing ESP with Eric Singer and Chuck Garrick right after we've released the first Union album, which is, I don't even have to deal with Bruce. Chuck and I would just sit in the back of the van and watch Eric and Bruce go at it in a comical way. So it was easy. And Jamie's just Jamie. He's like, I used to kid around with him and go, dude, whatever network Earth is on, you're on a completely different satellite dish.
Oh, Jamie was in his own. Dude. He was in his own zip code, as you would say.
Exactly. And he plays like like I've never seen anybody like it was funny. Like we'd sit on the tour bus and Jamie would literally sip Bacardi 151, like no mixer, just sip on it, and just be sitting there going like this, and then walk on stage and sing and play the bass like
nobody's business.
God, and then just go right back to being Jamie again.
Wow.
But
yeah, Bacardi 151 was a totally different type of use for it. For me, it was usually involved cotton balls in a glass pipe. I don't want to get into it, but here's the thing: yes or no answer. Dealing, if you think of Bruce Kulick, would you say that he's the Larry David of rock and roll?
At times, yes.
I would like a fact. I would definitely like the fact, not a fiction. Because I will say it. Bruce Kulick is the Larry David of rock and roll. Fact.
Okay. Yeah, I will go with that. But we used to, it's funny. We did a tour with Bruce and he was just, but he was wearing a lot of different hats. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a tornado. I walk into a room and it's like, give me 5 minutes in that room and it's going to look like a bomb went off. And Bruce is very thorough and organized. So we go on tour.
That is oil and water. That's oil and
water, dude.
Yeah.
And and he would go in, he'd be doing this and doing that. And he'd be like momming us, or little Jewish grandmother, keeping us all in line. And I would literally sit there and, but almost to the point where the other three of us were like, dude, seriously, lighten up, bro. Lighten up. So we made Bruce, we'd go on tour, we'd do our show, and then we'd get back on the bus, and we would immediately make a Jack Daniels and Coke, make a Jack and Coke, and then roll a joint and make him take one hit. Just take a hit off of this, drink that, and then
lower the temperature.
Yeah, and the temperature was lowered, and we got along with him great.
Well, here we're going to continue with a union-based song because another celebrity people want to speak question comes from lead guitarist and also just recently on the MORC lead vocalist of the band Choir Boys UK. He wants to know, Griff, of course, Guy Griff would like to know if you have any memories of the Union Glimmer US tour.
Yes, it took them a minute to kick in. When I saw Griff again, like with the Choir Boys, I kind of like, like he even said to me, he goes, yeah, dude, we did that whole tour together, remember? And I'm like, oh yes, we had so much fun on that. But that's part of the reason why I don't remember a lot of it. But we did an entire tour with those guys, and it was just, hello, the circus is coming to town. And and it was funny, like just being like the single white American guy, I just wait and let all those guys with their lovely English accents walk into the club, and they're like, all the girls and the bartenders and bar waitresses, they're all like, hello, love, can I get a, whatever. And then it's like,
God, he spoke something.
You see these girls, like their panties just come off. And it's like, okay, I'm just going to follow those guys and pick up whatever they drop behind them. It was a great.
Their Angoras went wild. Is that what you're saying? Their Angoras went nuts. I love it.
Pretty much.
All right. Well, let's move on to Rob Blackmore wants to know your thoughts. And I have no idea what this is about. Rob Blackmore wants to know your thoughts on Oak Island. What is that about? I have no idea.
Rob lives in Nova Scotia, and he just wrote to me a couple days ago. He goes, man, I'd love for you to come up to Nova Scotia and do a show and blah, blah, blah. And I go, yeah, and I could go to Oak Island and watch them dig for the treasure. I love that show.
Okay.
If you have the History Channel, I believe it's the History Channel, but there's a thing it's called Searching. The Mystery of Oak Island. And it's literally about all these guys. I mean, for the last 150 years, these people have been going there because they believe that the Knights Templar took all that religious artifacts and gold and silver, and they took it to this island and buried it. And these guys have been there for 8 years with ground like radar, and they're digging, and they're finding shit. Like they literally found a Knights Templar cross. that was dated from like 1300, and they're finding all this stuff. So I love the show, and that's what.
So basically, what you're saying is, after people watch a show about Tommy's dick and then move on to the Beatles, come together and get back and get, everything amazing about that, then they can move on to, of course,
well,
Oak
and what
Island.
I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be the Curse of Oak Island. Yeah, I'm trying to get Tommy to come up there with me, and we could use his dick as a drill. Whatever.
See, that's a comedian. That's a turnaround. That's a comeback or whatever.
That's called a turnaround, folks.
Is that what it is? It's some sort of thing that Earl Skakel would use.
Yeah, write that down, Earl.
So here's a question from someone that sounds like they would come from Nova Scotia. Jax Knutson Claudine. That sounds very, very, very Canadian, but he's not. He's a good old USA rock and roller. He wants to know about the Motley Crue album that you were working on after the self-titled album. The working title was Personality Number 9, and will any of those songs ever see the day of light?
Actually, to be honest with you, a majority of them actually appeared on what became Generation Swine. We had recorded a bunch of stuff, and they took Vince's record. They took my voice off, reworked the songs a little bit, and had Vince re-sing them. And so a lot of that stuff actually came on, like Afraid, Glitter. The song Glitter was called Bang when I was in the band. So they just kind of tweaked the titles and put all that stuff out on Generation Swine.
A bit of a collaboration of sorts, if you will.
Yes.
Okay, so there you go. That's why you would like to have sex with Motley Crue, a little bit of fuck, because it sounds like it's still kind of, bombastic and everything, the relationship, but it's still there. There's something there. Moving on, at Tico Torres Rocks. I wonder who he's a fan of. You, John Corabi, have amazing tattoos. Can you explain the meaning of a couple of them? I will only ask you to explain the meaning of one, if that's okay, because only for time's sake. Or do you have a tattoo that you'd like to explain?
To be honest with you, like a lot of this stuff is just different things that I've acquired over the years. And now I got a tattoo artist in Nashville that kind of went in and redid a bunch of my stuff. And it's just, there's no rhyme or reason. Like some people go, oh, I'm doing an Oriental theme or I'm doing a Celtic theme. And I'm just kind of like, I just want to
can't say Oriental anymore. I'm sorry. It's 2022.
It's just kind of all over the place. And I just had it colored in by this amazing guy named Adam the Kid at a place called
shout out Adam the Kid.
Yeah, Custom Thrills.
Custom Thrills, baby.
In Nashville, Tennessee. And he's awesome. So there's no rhyme or reason to anything.
So there's no stories by any of the tattoos. That's why I am a clean slate.
I do have one. I do have to say this one right here. I don't know.
Go full screen, Vic. Can you go full screen?
See these two little buttons right here on my arm?
I definitely do.
Okay. There's one says reset. The other says kill. And in 1994, we went to Texas, Tommy and I, and we hung out with Dimebag Darrell. God bless him. And
at the strip bar. I know you went to the strip bar, right?
We did go to the strip bar. And then from there, we went to a tattoo parlor. Tommy got a reset and kill switch. I got a reset and kill switch. And Dimebag had a reset and kill switch. So I'm in the process of having this arm redone. And those two buttons will never disappear. I'm going to have them recolored in. And so that they stand out a little better. That's my little tribute to Dimebag.
There it is. There it is. John Corabi's tribute to Dimebag Darrell. Reset, kill. Tattoos matching on three amigos, if you will, right? John, Tommy,
yes, sir,
and Dimebag. Great, man. We're rolling right through these. If you're cool with it, I have one more question for you. That would be,
and then you might have to do a glasses commercial again because my old man bladder's kicking in.
Dude, it's no problem if you need to actually take a pee.
I just need 2 minutes.
No, that happens, dude. Come on. You go ahead, go take a pee and come on back. And trust me, I can talk to people. These are my people here in the trenches. I can't tell you how happy we are to have you because John is taking a much needed pee break. See, me being the smart guy that I am, I peed before. And you know what? The reason is because look at all this liquid and look at this, folks. This is what I'm sort of putting out there subliminally. I didn't want to talk about it, but I'm putting it out there subliminally. Peace now. All right. And this one, I don't know. It's just a big old cocktail of vodka. I got to pee a little bit, but it's like that feeling in the back. Thanks. You know what? That's making me want to pee even more, Vic. Do you want to come out here and just join us for a second so I can just riff off you for a bit? He's shaking his head no. Just for a second, man. I think podcast is going real well. Everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to the right now, Ryan Roxie official on the YouTube channel, right there, hit that button, subscribe, hit it. Because guess what? We want to get to 10,000 subscribers by when, Vic? As soon as possible. It doesn't matter when we do it. We just want to get there. Today has been a really great episode with John Corabi. We are going to have, you know what we could do right now, Vic? We could do fan of the week. While he's here, here it is. Our fan of the week. Come on, Vic, do it right now. This week's fan of the week is none other than Sam Wall. He has his own podcast. Go follow him with his own podcast. I did it just a few weeks ago. The interview is still up there right now. So Sam Wall, you are our fan of the week. He has been on the boat, the Monsters of Rock Cruise. That's where John Corabi and I got together, and we decided to have have him on the episode. Apparently, John is done peeing right now. But Sam Wall, you are a fan of the week. If you folks would like to be interested in being the fan of the week, just follow our Instagram or our YouTube official and start promoting these shows. Thanks again for always for supporting, being part of the live chat. And guess what? It's time for John Corabi to come back with us. There you are, man. How you feeling?
I didn't really have to pee. I had to rinse the nair off my balls. It was starting to burn.
Ouch. Don't do that before a podcast. You realize that.
I'm aerodynamic though right now. I'll tell you that.
I did it once during the pandemic. I'll be honest with you. My wife put it on me once, and she did everything. And she called me the dolphin for a couple months, for almost a month. But they call it, there's a different thing besides nair. It's called fleet in Europe. It's the same thing. But you put it on, and basically for some weird reason, everything comes off. Have you ever done that?
I'm not using it on my face.
Chuck Garrick does it once at the beginning of every tour, like everything. No. He's like, he looks like a Tour de France sort of bicyclist or something like that. Yeah, Nick is laughing, but it's true. He's only laughing because he knows it's true.
I'm just going to stick with nature.
Well, dude, if you stick with nature, then you're going to be like in those 1970s porno flicks, which are completely.
Naomi said too much info.
A couple questions more from the fans that want to know more and more and more. Along.came.alice.cooper. What happened with the Dead Daisies? Do you like the album Holy Ground?
Yeah, I thought the record was great. In all honesty, I've had a few fans ask me about this, and it was weird. Like if everybody remembers, prior to me joining the Daisies, I actually had a solo band with Phil, Jeremy, Topher. My bass player is here now. He's in the house.
I love Topher.
And my son. And, the Daisies talked to me, and they asked me to go to Cuba with them. We did the show. And then they said, after I did the show, they called me about a week or so later. They're like, hey, would you want to do a record? And initially when they talked to me, they said they were only going to need me really like maybe half the year. And I said, okay, well, I think I can make this work. I can tour with them maybe in the summer. I can tour with my band in the winter, vice versa, whatever. But it was weird. I did this first record with them in Australia called Revolution. And we immediately went on tour with Kiss. And I hate to sound weird, but it just kind of exploded. And it was just tour. We were touring constantly. Then we would come home, work on a record, go right back out on the road. Meanwhile, my son is sitting at home going, Dad, this
I
sucks.
thought I was your drummer. I thought I was
he's
your
like,
drummer, dude.
Like he was kind of getting mad at me. He goes, when are we gonna fucking play again? Like, and I'm like, all right, just let me just finish this tour and let me see what the schedule is. But there just was no time for anything else I wanted to do. Plus, I had just gotten married in August of 2014, and in January or February of 2015, I'm in the Daisies. I'm gone. I'm in Australia. I'm doing records, all this other shit. And it was like, okay.
Not always the easiest thing.
I did 2015, 16, 17, and 18. So I did 4 years with him. We did 4 records, all that touring. And I just said, you know what? I need to just step off the carousel for a minute, catch my breath, and focus on what I'm doing now. The book, Casabella, trying to put a band together with my kid again. And
plus the new single, Your Own Worst Enemy, that just came out right now.
And, so I'm looking forward to the end of the year. There's a couple of other things that I can't really go into at this point, but I'm in the process of developing a TV show.
Holy crap.
So
all right.
I got a lot of fingers and a lot of different pies, and I'm happy, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just kind of doing my thing. And
well, there you go. I mean, and it sounds like you've told the story about the Dead Daisies, and it sounds very reasonable for anybody that's listening. You've definitely put your time in. You definitely did the tours. You did everything you could do, and you're back playing with your son, releasing singles, releasing all this new stuff, this new chapter with a book.
And you know as well as anybody, playing with Alice, who
for as many years, yeah.
But you're kind of working his schedule.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I just like the fact that I'm kind of, I just stepped off the carousel for a minute now. If they said 5 years from now, like, hey, we want to do a Make Some Noise reunion tour or something like that, I'm not saying no, but I just wanted to get off the carousel for a minute, catch my breath, and focus on the things on me, my son, my wife, and be the captain of my own ship.
Yeah, but the direction is always forward, and we can see that with the work that you're putting towards the solo career, and as far as the book as well that's coming out. Hold on one second. There you go. Why would people know? They know I'm doing a podcast. Why would they try and WhatsApp me at this point? The one last question, and this actually goes with what you were doing with your own solo career and all the stuff that you were promoting yourself at Radical Rage and Dead Andy and a bunch of others. Sort of DM me. I'm sorry I couldn't put all your names on this type of question, but there were a lot of questions that related to this. Are you planning any upcoming tour in Europe? Because obviously European fans love it, whether you do your solo storytelling stuff or whether you're doing it with the Lost Angels or whether you're just doing it in a whole new band type of situation.
Well, I've been offered some shows, but it was like one of those things where, Nicholas, Nicholas, my tour manager.
Of course, yeah.
So Nicholas is like, hey, I'm getting offers for shows from you. And there was this thing where it's like, okay, you could come to Switzerland and you could quarantine for like 10 days and all that. And I'm like, no, I want to wait.
Ain't doing that.
No, it's just, to each his own, and I'm vaccinated. I don't mind wearing a mask, whatever. But, the shit gets to the point where it's like, okay, so when I tour Europe, I'm in Italy for 5 days, then I'm in Germany for 5 or 6 days, then you're in Switzerland for a few days, then France,
all over the place,
then Poland, and each country's got their own thing, you know what I mean? And I'm like, let's just wait a little bit longer. Let me get some more music out. And ultimately, I would like to come back, not do the acoustic thing. I want to come back with a full band with my son and my guys and just get out and start kicking ass electric, which I've never done. I did some shit with ESP with Eric Singer, but I've never done any solo shows, electric, anywhere in Europe. So I kind of want to get back and do that again.
Well, all of Europe hopes that you're able to do that. And the best way for people to support you from Europe and everybody that's watching in the States right now, let's get to where people, and they are listening on the audio broadcast right now, or if you're just watching, John, can you tell people the best way to get in touch with you and keep up on all things Corabi?
Any of those sites, there's John Corabi Official on Facebook, John Corabi Music, there's Crab Legs 59 on Twitter, Instagram, John Corabi Official. And then I have johncorabi.com that's got my tour dates, it's got merch. I'm actually in the process of I'm building, or not me. I have a guy that's helping me out because I took me like an hour to turn my fucking computer on today.
You've had a great feed the whole time, so thank you very much. I applaud you for your 2022 internet, because we have so many guests that come on, and then basically a lot of our interviews are like,
yeah, and then it clicks in 5 minutes later. But I have a guy named Sean Thornton. He's a great dude. He's out of Michigan, and he's been helping me build my websites, and he kind of admins everything for me. And he just contacted me this morning. And I wanted to put an MP3 player where people could download the songs from me directly. And I'm going to start putting music up there. And if they want to download it, they can download it, you know, and maybe some rarities, some other things that I'm maybe not released to Spotify and all that other kind of shit. So I plan on.
Sounds like you got a lot of things.
Yes.
Sounds like you got a lot of things in the pipe work, up the pipe. I don't know how the hell they say it. There's so many different ways of saying it, but you have so many things in the works. Those links one more time, Vic, put them up so people can watch, see them. Again, if you're listening to us, go on our YouTube official, Ryan Roxie official YouTube channel to check out these links. But of course, at John Corabi official on Instagram, that's where I've been following you lately, as well as John Corabi Music at Crablegs59. Thanks to Mick Mars, of course, the linguist who gave you that name, which we found out earlier in the broadcast, and official music, John Corabi YouTube, and of course where all this stuff is happening is johncorabi.com. It's come to that time of the show, folks, where honestly I have to pee myself, but guess what? Not before you check out John Corabi's book, which is coming out soon enough. There you go with that picture one more time, Vic Chalfant. That's Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. Plus, check out the new single, Your Own Worst Enemy by John Corabi, right there. And again, we go to all those links that we just gave you. I love the fact that you shout out to your team, because I love to shout out to our team every single week. Vic Chalfant, you've done a great job. Federica, you did a great job as far as compiling the interview. Everybody on the RGA team, that includes you all in the trenches that have been in the live chat. Thank you for showing up each and every week. One last question, John, because you're so good with words, and maybe you can draw something from your father and give it to us. But do you have any sort of words of advice, words of life, words of wisdom that you live by that you could pass on to our listeners?
You know what, dude? I've kind of come, especially after the Motley thing. I had a very rude awakening when I realized that all those people that were, you know, and I'm sure you've dealt with this as well, you know, all those people that were calling me for tickets and calling me to invite me out, wanted me to get the limo, like all that shit. And then when Vince came back, it was crickets. So what I do is I just do the best I can, keep my fingers crossed, and just keep moving forward. I don't expect anything from anybody. I just do the best I can. And then all the rest of the shit that's out of my control, I don't even fucking worry about it. It is what it is.
It is what it is. Horseshoes and hand grenades. And if your boat comes in, don't be at a fucking airport.
When your ship comes in, don't be at the fucking airport.
I fucking love that. I love that. Next week's guest on In the Trenches, folks, will be David Liebert. That will be our guest on Next Stage, because you'll start hearing the blitz on that. But you know what? Let's celebrate this week. Have yourself a great weekend. John Corabi, thanks for being our guest on In the Trenches.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. Until next time, we'll see you all next week, and we'll see you all in the trenches. Enjoy the ride. Have a good one, folks. Cheers.
In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie.